We're going to start at the bow and move our way back. This will show you our setup of the tools and materials we'll use, as well as a preview of our SeaDek. So Windex to wipe everything down with before we move on to acetone. Acetone will clean and remove any kind of stickiness or adhesive or anything that's kind of stuck to the boat. And we have a multi-tool for taking off the container tops and stuff. We also have this 3M tape primer. This goes on the edges or the outside of where each edge of your SeaDek will be. This helps with adhesion as well as preventing water from getting up underneath your SeaDek. And it's recommended by Jet Boat Pilot. All right, so for our SeaDek, we went with the Storm Gray, white, and Bimini Blue. I think that's the name of it. Bimini Blue?
Bimini Blue.
Bimini Blue. All right, to match our, the color scheme in our boat. So it's grays, whites, and blue. And this is the locker. All right, step one, we're gonna spray this down with some Windex and white. What I'm doing is, we have the largest bottle possible. Thanks, Erica. I just have the seat protected from the can, so it doesn't make marks, which I already did, but anyways. Just dip it in acetone, and I'm gonna just gently rub it on the spots where we're gonna adhere to. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've gotten ready to put our tape primer on. What I did was I laid our piece into position, traced it with pencil, just a light pencil mark, all the way around, just so I can see where I'm gonna put my tape primer. And then I also went ahead and scored the back of just the paper, so I can pull from the center. I'm gonna lay this down. I'm gonna start and just do one side first, make sure it's in position, and then the other side I'll pull the paper, and hopefully it won't move at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and put down the tape primer all the way around the outside of my perimeter mark, and this should be dry before you actually put the SeaDek on into place. So we'll go ahead and put this on and let it dry. Okay. All right, so I have my piece in place. The primer's dry. It's a little tacky, but not overly so. So the paper on the back of this won't stick to it. So that's a good thing. I was worried about that. So I have it all lined up, checking my corners. Everything looks pretty good. And remember, I said I had split the paper. So I'm just going to lift up on one end and grab. I just moved it. Check that again. You can tell this is not going to be an easy 20-minute install. All right, that looks good. Take the paper. They want you to start from the inside and work your way out. So that's what we're doing. Yeah, so before you start, what I would recommend is peeling both sides of the center back. Not that I have a problem, but it probably would have just made that part of the video a little easier.
It might not be good for a bigger sheet. Looking good.
And you can kind of see, like, I'm a little close to the locker latch. However, if I came down any further, this would have been way off centered. So I picked a happy medium, and if I were to center this on the little hole here, I would have been way too far up ahead. So I picked a happy medium, and this is what we got. I think it looks pretty good. so here we are. We've installed the floor cockpit area. So I just want to take you through the steps that I took. The 3M putty. I went around, filled all the holes after I pulled out all the screws. I filled all the holes, and what I did was I topped them off, so I left a little extra on top, so overnight it would kind of seep into the holes and dry hard. In the morning when I came out, I took a razor blade. I just cut off the tops just to make it a nice, smooth, flat surface. And then I applied the same steps that I took on the front. I used the acetone to clean. Actually, I started with Windex, and I went to the acetone to clean any residue off or any kind of stickiness or oils from skin. And then after I cleaned, I added the tape primer to the outside edges, and then I applied the SeaDek, as you can see. So I have the whole cockpit area done. I think it probably took about an hour and a half, 2 hours. What I did not do was for these pieces, I did not slice the backing. I started at the very front, and I just peeled the backing backwards as I straightened it out and laid it down. So I pulled off all whole sections basically. I will say the hardest section I think was this middle piece, the locker piece here. And I want to say I actually started here, and then I worked forward and then to the sides. So I started with the middle locker just to get my lines right, and then I went forward again to the sides. The hardest part was when I started peeling back the backing here, some of it ripped around the holes. So if I had to do it differently, what I would have done was I would have lined up this side first, and I would have peeled it all the way back from the side and kind of laid it up, bent it like this and laid this side down first and pulled the paper this way. But I went front to back. That's the only, I guess, piece of advice I would have. Go from the side. Again, everything doesn't line up perfectly with like the cutouts for the screw holes and this locker cover. But it looks fantastic, and I couldn't be happier with it. I think that's just what you get when you have a handmade boat. So, all right, so now I'm gonna work on the step through. All right, so here we are on the step through, the walk through. Obviously I'm not taking out my snaps here because this is for the extra cushion when we put it in place. And we actually kind of dry fit everything, and the cushion still works, the snaps still work with the piece in place. So I'm just gonna show you, I don't know if I showed this the other day, but I'll show it anyways. When I paint the lines, or the primer, the tape primer, I just go along the outside like this. Get a nice good coat on there.
And no more than like an inch, because otherwise you'll never be able to get it up ever again.
Yeah, and what I also do is on the corners, I kind of cross the corner and just get a little extra on there. So if any water, especially like down here, where any corners are, I went a little bit thicker here just to prevent any water penetration. And I did that on pretty much all the corners. So I don't think we'll ever be taking this off, but the next guy's gonna have a hell of a time. Okay, that's it. Easy as that. All right, so for this piece on the walkthrough, we're gonna start at the back with the snaps because I just wanna make sure I give myself enough room. As you can see, I'm just gonna fold this over real quick, and I'm gonna use my snaps as my guide. I already dry fit it, so I know where it needs to go. It's just a matter of making sure it gets to there. Once you have this down, that's pretty much where it's going to go, so you better be happy with it. Otherwise, I think you'll be calling Will Owen and buying some more SeaDek. Smooth out from the middle, and then I work my way to the outside. And the other thing I do too is I've been going around on the outside of the, well, because we have the triple, I don't know if they're all like this, but I've noticed that if you don't push down on this and get a nice good seal, you might have some some issues with water getting in there, or it might look puckered if you don't go all the way around the edge. So I would recommend after you get everything pressed down, just push down along the edge. Try not to stretch it, but just give a nice little bit of pressure on it with your finger and go all the way around. Get out any air bubbles that might be in there. All right, and you'll notice, so I'm going to show you this on the boat. So, and this is a good indication of the small little intricate details that I was trying to talk about earlier with these handmade boats. So you see how the pattern here, the grip pattern, kind of bleeds over here. They didn't center their stamp, or however they make this. So you just gotta, it's fine. It'll be all right. It'll still look nice. But you might have those little inconsistencies where you're not exactly, the pad's not exactly like centered over that. So just don't let that stress you out.